ठीक है, we're good to go now? Okay. Ryan, first of all, thank you so much for having me in this beautiful studio, office, clinic
Thank
that
you
you
for
have.
coming.
Nah, man, I think I like Bangalore a little bit more when I meet interesting people. But there's a few things I want to say before we begin, because after a certain point, I'm just going to let you handle. There is so much that your expertise will bring that my questioning will not. I used to have a roommate, okay, back in when I just moved to America, and he shaped my first worldview around nutrition. And I remember having this conversation that blew my mind. He said, your tongue is a tool to understand what tastes better and what does not, and so what you would prefer but what you would not. It is not the ultimate test of what you should eat.
You know why India is suffering? Because we had hundreds of years of colonial rule. The British starved us. And so whenever you had a celebration, because they were starving us, affluence was respected or seen in the form of your ability to feed more and have a sumptuous meal.
Right.
Now, over a period of time, obviously we Indians are masters at flavoring food, our spices, our dishes and everything, and the spectrum of diversity. So, matlab, this mistress has a lot of choice, right? Bharpur choice.
Right.
So, if you wanted to show your wealth in the past years, you showed it in the form of प्यार से खिलाने का. मम्मी का प्यार, दादी माँ का प्यार, नेबर का प्यार, किसी का शादी का प्यार. तो हम लोग क्या करते हैं? खाना लेते हैं. So the previous few generations have been embedded in them कि मतलब अगर किसी को खुशी देने का है या wealth दिखाने का है, food से दिखाने का है.
Right.
If I work very hard today, I believe I should reward myself. How do I reward myself? My taste bud says, भाई खा लो, भरपूर खा लो.
हाँ, आज तो order करेंगे.
हाँ.
Standard.
So when we see our parents and our grandparents having trained us to believe that way, we have not brought an element of science. So when you met your roommate,
Right.
your roommate has come from an evolved society,
Right.
a more developed society.
A more scientifically driven society in some
Yeah,
sense.
so they are more logical,
Right.
not emotional.
Right.
Taste bud emotion नहीं है.
Solid.
Right? So what I am doing as a celebrity nutritionist है भाई तेरा तो घर है, ठीक है, अभी आप सोचने का कि we don't have now 5 children, 8 children at a time.
Right.
पहले तो क्रिकेट टीम था.
हाँ.
So if 2-3 fellows become morta and died of heart attack, it is okay. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of...
Let's trigger them. But yeah, you are correct.
Right.
Absolutely. That was the strategy. Right.
Right? But in today, I have only one child. Right? So I am now trying as a parent to teach my kid ki I am gone case. I will still eat some chips and all of that stuff as a nutritionist also. Because I was allowed to do that. But with him, I am educating him ki between an apple, this is the nutrition, and between the chips, this is the nutrition. And the modern day children today that are born are much more smarter than any previous generation. So we can't tell people what to do. We need to educate them. The only way you can educate people is giving them their own diagnostics. Because health is very personal.
Right.
The whole world thinks that, okay, wars are happening, this is happening, bahar hota hai. But what is personal to you? Only when someone gives you a thappad. A diagnostic test is a great way to tell person ki bhai, you're getting slapped,
Right.
or you will be slapped.
Agreed.
Now when that happens, I think most people कि भाई कुछ तो करना ही पड़ेगा. But the starting point of who's my Guruji, where do I go, कैसा करने का है, people don't know where to go.
Right.
And I was just discussing with a person yesterday, a lot of people go to doctors. If you're not broken, the doctors are successful because they're treating the condition.
Their causation, like after post happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people today are thinking opposite in terms of preventive and not wanting to go to a doctor because the doctor is giving the treatment but doesn't know how to treat the patient. What do I mean by this?
Yes.
When somebody comes to me, I treat the person as an individual. I give them time. So they are saying to me, Bhai, Ryan makes me feel so good. He is treating me so nicely. The starting point in changing behavior is first respecting the other person and acknowledging their difficulties or their, what I would say as, if you have an adat to eat more, I cannot slap you and say, Prakhar,
मत खा.
mat ka.
हाँ.
I need to understand you.
कि क्यों खा रहा है ज़्यादा?
So I need to treat you with respect. I need to treat you with understanding. I need to treat you with science.
Right.
When I give you a medicine pill, I'm not treating you well. I'm treating your condition.
Right.
And that is why I believe all the brands in medicine and all the apps in the world for diet and nutrition will not succeed.
Because they're treating the disease or the disorder as opposed to the person.
Yeah. And people want respect.
Right.
So how do you treat a person? Treat as a not giving a medicine, but is there a lovely relationship? In that, the first place to start is the mothers. If your mother treats you well with food, any mother who exercises and any mother who feeds her child nutritiously, not biscuit, not packaged food,
Right.
right? The children will grow up to have greater health values. And then you begin to change a generation. I believe your generation and your children's generation will be a much healthier India than my generation, my father's generation.
I hope so.
No, it will. Because what's going to happen is, I'll give you a simple example. How are children today in school being educated about segregating garbage? My son came to me and told me, why aren't you segregating the garbage in your office? He came to the office one day. He's 11 years old. Why aren't you segregating the garbage in the office? I had no answer. I'm doing it at home. He's poking me.
Right.
So this is an 11-year-old kid. So when he is in the office, he's going to pull up people.
Right.
Why are we not having solar panels? Why are we not having carbon neutrality? Why are we not separating our garbage? It's because in the cradle to 11 standard, he's being exposed to this. And therefore, your generation and your children's generation will be a more astute generation. And if you're not astute, AI will put you in place.
Thank God for the overlord. Thank God for the... Let me pause this conversation for a second to remind you the subscribe button is right underneath the video. And if you haven't pressed it, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? You're loving this conversation. You enjoy this. You want to watch more of this. So press the subscribe button and press the bell icon right next to it so I can see you around for more conversations just like this. But I think there's something very sensible that I understood from what you were saying. Because, in my experience with that friend, when he told me about how we are often slaves to our tongue, उसने मेरे को बोला, Prakhar, let's try a few things and we'll get to what we tried together. And instantly, in the next few days, I could feel a shift in my way of being psychologically as well as performance-wise. Like when you said the blueprint is within, you can pretty much feel a difference. And what that woke me up to कि भाई अगर ये नहीं करता तो मेरे को पता भी नहीं था कि मतलब ब्रेन फॉग कुछ होता है, मेरी एनर्जी क्रैशेस आते हैं मेरे को दिन में, that there is a way to operate this घर or this machinery in a optimal way at all. हम पूरी लाइफ we are asleep to the fact that food is fuel before food is pleasure. And we never utilize nutrition as fuel at all. We never think that is the input that creates the output on the body. Am I fair in understanding that?
Absolutely fair. See, I built my career first as a sports nutritionist. Helped a lady break the Guinness World Record of non-stop aerobics of 26 hours. Sushil Kumar's 2 Olympic medals. So I come from a background which is food, performance, food, Olympic medal. So the journey is very, very simple in terms of performance of any human. Like you and I can actually just be podcasters and we have a certain metabolic requirement, which is we are DJs, desk jockeys. We sit down and do our work, but this is working. Like I have chess players who come to me. Do you know they burn 2,000 calories a day just sitting down?
I'm a chess player, I know that.
Yeah?
I've been playing forever.
So whenever the chess players have come in and the Sushil Kumars have come in or the Virat Kohlis have come in, it's completely different. But the difference, Prakhar, is these guys get paid
To perform.
Right? So if I can convince India that you as an individual are performing to be the celebrity of your life.
Fair.
right? So let me give an example. Let's say I partied till late last night, 5 o'clock in the morning, fully drunk, and I come into this podcast today. My hypothalamus will be 40 to 80% down.
Mm-hmm.
So the vibrational energy, the thinking energy, the equational energy all goes lower. So I believe in today's world, we have lost our Indian Ayurvedic and Rigvedas and ancient societies' superpower, which is we were able to connect with each other, the vibrational connection, and now we have made it very transactional.
Fair.
Which is why I love the fact that we're doing this podcast in person,
Right.
because the vibrational energy is completely different as is to when we met online.
Sure.
So how do you see that? You see that in the energy of a person. So if you believe that you need to be at the next level and your body is the only thing that allows you to get to that level, and in the body includes the brain and the muscles and the skin and the blood and everything, what you eat and how you sleep is the starting seed point. You can't get a tree and then tell the tree, okay, you know what, now you're there, you're going to be a great life. Or you're a seed and say, I want to become a tree but not go through the process. The seed has to be watered and fertilized. I think the human body between the ages of 5 and 25, everybody's mushrooming, everyone is growing. But unfortunately, we are wooed by the West and we have become very fashionable and transactional. And as a result, our ancient belief systems of food, sleep, and physical activity. Yoga is a classical example. The West is making yoga much better. It was discovered over here.
Yeah.
It was practiced over here. But I have yoga instructors going to New York to get their certification.
Yeah.
Why am I laughing is because the essence of us as Indians is very powerful. We just need to wake up and realize that if we eat right, sleep right, exercise right, not only is the economy going to grow, but the prowess of the Indian genetic makeup is also going to grow.
Like, I'll take it more fundamental. Matlab, economy वगैरह, like you said, it's all outside, right? And frankly, I feel like, yeah, sure, you know, in my intellectual concerns, हाँ मैं चाहता हूँ इंडिया का इकोनॉमी यहाँ वहाँ जाए. Fundamentally मैं चाहता हूँ मैं खुश रहूँ. कौन खुश है? कोई खुश नहीं है. And one of the things that, to the West's credit, or at least in my exposure to the West's credit, is they understood ki before the psychological comes the physiological. If your foundations are set straight in your physiology, if you're healthy in your body in so many ways, your mind is much more, let's say, much more programmed, much more aligned with performing better. So you're much happier as a function of that. And maybe this comes from, you know, my first exposure to nutrition with my roommate, because he was a permanently depressed fellow. And he tried everything until nutrition fixed his depression, right? And so he was a hardcore nutrition sort of freak because of this reason. He said, listen, I did not know how to be happy. I tried everything until I realized there's something wrong with my gut. And once I started changing some stuff there, I got happier. And I said, listen, man, this sounds very magical, okay? But when I tried eating a certain way that at least fit me in that time and space, and sometimes even now, like we were just discussing, me and Mehul, I don't eat breakfast because as soon as I eat breakfast myself, I feel like this slump. If I carry on not eating until like 2:30 and I have my first meal, I feel great. And so at least I felt my way through and understood ki I don't want to eat my meal before I'm done performing through the day. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. You'll tell me better. But there is something to be said about eating your way to happiness, eating your way to performance, eating your way to even success. And I agree. Look, the ancient Indian understood that beyond all this transactional capitalist world, there is a connection world, there's a vibrational world. I agree. In my teaching this, I've realized that younger folk are much more enticed and much easier taught by telling them, listen, if you do this, you'll be successful. And once they're done with success, you know, they'll have this realization, kuch nahi rakha success mein, uske beyond, there is this whole connection, vibrational stuff. But let's start with the bottom now. Let's start with telling them you'll be happier, you'll be more successful, you'll perform better. What do you think of that?
So, you know, my wife, sometimes when I watch TV and all, she says, you're a very insensitive person. लाइक मतलब किसी का खुदकुशी हो गया था, मैंने बोला अरे यार इसका विटामिन बी कॉम्प्लेक्स का डेफिशिएंसी है और ये तो सही नहीं खाया. My wife's like, how can he be so insensitive? He just committed suicide. I'm like, अरे यार, when people are depressed and anxiety, as an Olympic level nutritionist, I can tell you, go and get your gut checked. There was a research done, I don't remember if it is in America or Australia, on prisoners. So there was these two blocks of prisoners, block A, block B. Block A, they measured the violence, the suicidal tendencies, the muggings, the murders and everything within the prison. And in another block, they had the statistics. Now what they did is in block B, they gave them a multivitamin and an omega-3.
That's it.
Only these two things. And the amount of incidences of the murders, aggression and suicidal tendencies in block D just went through the floor. Now, I don't remember the exact statistics. We can find the study and put it up also for our viewers later.
Right.
But when I read that, because I'm constantly reading, because I have these celebrities who come to me and they're like, they're depressed, they're on narcotics, or they're on uppers or downers or whatever, and they're prescription medication, sleep medication. We find out that each one of us are bio-individual, number one. Number two, the food you eat is not scientifically designed. It is out of love and culture. So there is where the first element of mistakes are happening.
Sure.
So please go and figure out your scientific eating. The food we get from the farmer is not nutritionally balanced because the farming techniques over the years was focused on yield-based outcome rather than nutrition density within that crop. Therefore, nutritional deficiencies will exist. For example, there was a paper done on apple's iron content now in this day and age, and apple's content in 1960s had much higher iron content, which is why Dadima and Nanaji had better hemoglobin than us today. So when you start putting this together, I am not going into how your boss has treated you at work or how your mummy has constantly put you down in your life or what crap you went through in school because of bullying by your friends. That is environment.
Right.
I am saying you have a genetic makeup that might absorb lesser. Let me give you my personal example. I have a magnesium deficient gene. Do you know if you have magnesium deficiency, first of all, if you work out, you'll get cramps.
Okay.
So somebody like me in school who started playing tennis or cricket or hockey and I'm constantly getting cramps, by the time I'm 17, 18, ye to mere liye nahi hai.
And you are forever done with it.
Done.
Life say done.
But you didn't know that you have a magnesium deficiency. Second, you're always constipated. Magnesium softens your stool. But you have a gene that doesn't absorb magnesium well, so you're plugged up.
Right.
Third is, people who have higher magnesium have larger brains and therefore more intellectual. Oh. Could India at a certain level of population be nutritionally deficient because हमारा जो pumpkin seeds or sunflower seeds का magnesium कम है. The yield is going up.
Yeah.
We're feeding more people.
Right.
But I think if I were to sit with the PMO's office, I would say in the next 50 years, can we improve the nutritional quality index and reduce the chemical exposure on foods? Now what's going to happen is by defunct, you're going to fortify inadvertently all your foods to a better level. So the next generations, even if they don't do the scientific testing, उनका दाल चावल रोटी थोड़ा सही होता है.
Better होगा.
And then final point is, if you know people, for an example, there was a study done, one was nutrition in the prisons. In Singapore, if I'm not mistaken, they did a study and, sorry, not Singapore. They did a study in Australia. And they found out that exercise is 1.5 times more powerful than medication and counseling for depression. 1.5. I put this post on LinkedIn.
People will lose their mind.
I put this post on LinkedIn and I'll tell you something. Nobody shared it.
Nobody shared it. You got away. Because if you look, we live in times where you cannot sort of speak of the mental health industry in any which way.
No, I am taking it on. Listen, it's in your gut. Your gut then makes you feel depressed for 5 to 8 years where you get mentally slapped. Then you start going for counseling. Then you start taking medicines. But your parents need to discover if you have a genetic deficiency for B complex absorption, omega absorption, magnesium absorption, probiotics. Your gut produces. See, before you eat food, beta, the food is eating your food and pooping that food back into your gut, producing the serotonin molecules which are linked to your brain power.
No, let's explain this because we cannot rush through this. This is a very important point. See, the largest, I think, disorder is a happiness disorder, right? Let's put it very simply. Majority लोगों को मोटे हो, पतले हो, muscular हो, ना हो, unhappy सब हैं. और serotonin is the happiness confidence index in the body, है ना? So you were saying that the food, before I am eating the food, what is happening? Explain that much more simply, please.
See, we have something known as the digestive system.
Right.
The stomach has no bacteria. It is a Sumit mixer with acid. Breaks down all the food. All the big molecules, the carbohydrate, the protein, the fat are broken down with digestive enzymes, then goes to the small intestine. Small intestine says, Salam Saab, oh, you are protein from egg. Now you're broken down to amino acid. Oh, Salam Saab, you are glucose, you have come from rice. Salam Saab, you are fatty acids, you have come from
Fish or whatever.
Right. Whatever you're eating. Now the intestine breaks it down with further digestive enzyme and goes to large intestine. In this large intestine, it is a massive stadium, long stadium. And inside there is all of these population of bacteria.
Right.
Imagine Bangalore city. Okay. The whole of Bangalore city is our digestive intestine. Now we are in Indranagar. Indranagar has got a good population. So जितना भी हम बंदे होता है ना, let us call as nutrition. Our cameraman is nutrition, you are nutrition, I am nutrition. So we have entered Indranagar. Now Indranagar population says, hey boss, you have to show your passport to us.
Right.
Passport to whom now? To the microbes.
Huh.
There are more bacteria in your human body than human cells.
Okay.
You have about 2.5 to 3 kgs of bacteria in your gut. Bacteria alone. So these guys are like a population density. You have good guys of bacteria and you have bad guys. So when I am a good guy, you are a good guy and we come to Indranagar population, अरे भाई प्रकार आ गया, Ryan Fernando आ गया, उसको खाएगा, digest करेगा, and whatever we release back into that area of the intestine is good molecules. Now those good molecules get absorbed into the heaven, your bloodstream.
Right.
And it goes to your brain, it goes to your muscles and everything.
Right.
Now suppose these bacteria were bad guys. I put in outside food that is not nutritionally dense, food that has got too much of insecticides, pesticide, food that is prepared by a guy who is fighting with his boss in a restaurant. So the energy of the food, the vibrational energy of the food is all crap. That goes in. Now that good bacteria says, ये तो हमारा like का नहीं है. Bad bacteria standing on the side, भाई हमारा आदमी है. So he starts eating it and throws out bad molecules. So this gut eating your food and then pooping it back into your gut are
is the foundation of hormonal.
Yeah, there's a word that they use. Let's call it the food of the microbiome, and it comes into your bloodstream.
Right.
So because as a simple nutritionist, I understood that. I used to think, कि भाई इसके पास ये problem है. And this is all before microbiome testing. We've been doing this for the last almost 2 decades. That's how I won Olympic medals. Because I was able to understand this in an athlete. When the athlete is depressed, the depression is not because they're not winning medals. It's because when they're training so hard, then they're going out and eating samosa, batata vada and dukan ka food, where that dukan guy is not preparing it with the highest nutritional yield.
Right.
He's preparing with the highest profitability, which means he's buying the cheapest quality ingredients.
Agreed.
And he's only putting tastemaker in it.
Right.
So now my bacteria gets this tastemaker, lowest quality food. Then the gunda wala bacteria wo ferment karega, digest. You get all the crappy molecules. So after eating so crappy, after 2-3 years, performance goes down, mental health goes down.
Right.
So you fix your eating style and you start putting all the good quality bacteria. Within 6 months, you force out all the bad bacteria from your gut.
Right.
Like for example, I did my microbiome test and I'm not supposed to eat peanuts and I'm not supposed to eat rice. But I love rice. Why do I love rice? मैं राइस क्यों पसंद करते हैं?
Because you're from Goa?
I'm from Goa और मम्मी ने खाया, my दादी माँ ने gave it to me. So That's all I know. Programming.
हाँ बिल्कुल.
Right? So now when one big shot nutritionist says microbiome test कर दो, उसका poop analysis है, poop analysis के अंदर DNA का analysis of all the microbiome, okay, आपको ये नहीं चाहिए है, तो झगड़ा होता है काउंसलिंग रूम के अंदर कि सर ऐसा कैसा हो सकता है, पूरा जिंदगी ये खाना खाया.
हाँ.
So it's very challenging as a nutritionist to be on the side of moderation, and it's very difficult to stay on the side of insisting with your client to follow the genetic blueprint or the microbiome blueprint.
Right.
But when these things happen medically, I take a stance. I know it's happening in the gut. And if you look at all the doctors today on Instagram and everywhere, they're all talking diet. In fact, one of the most famous doctors in gut health now is asking me for nutritionist because as a gastro, we are realizing that we need diet to be corrected. The problem is, it's a psychological mind shift to change the way you eat. And nutritional testing, genetic testing, blood testing makes you realize, Prakhar, if you come to me for a diet plan, if I just write 2 idli, 2 sambar, 2 dosa, 2 paratha, you'll follow my plan for 6 months because you paid me. And that's what has happened with all of the paleo diet, the keto diets and all. People have a fad and then they stop. But the moment you do a gene testing and a blood test and they tell you, Prakhar, this is your bio-individuality, you'll fight me for 6 months. But sooner or later, you'll stop effing around with your own self.
Right.
And you will say, Ryan, jo bola na, ye jo diet hat, mera hi diet hai. Then suddenly your BB will start telling you, ki, bhai, you're not supposed to be eating this. So like whenever rice is put on my plate, my wife will be like, are you sure you want to be eating rice today? I'm like, it's okay. I'm still human being. I may be celebrity nutrition, but I want to eat rice. And I'm like everyone out there. But the sum total of eating rice has reduced from 7 twos are 14. So lunch and dinner, rice.
Right.
7 twos are 14 to maybe 4 times. So 4 times is better than 14 times. Guess what? I have better potty today. Sorry to be very gross.
No, but that's really a marker of how good your gut is.
I have better potty today than when I had as a teenager with all my acne and allergies and everything. Nobody told me that, dude, you were allergic to this, you were allergic to this. I'm a Goan, I'm supposed to eat pav. But when I did my genetic test, I'm allergic to gluten. The thought process is very, very simple. You take charge of what you put into your body.
Right.
You take charge of what you allow to come through your eyes. You take charge of what you allow to come through your ears. You will become indestructible.
Solid. Sounds lovely.
You are an Olympic performer in your own body.
Right.
You figure out what is your Achilles heel. Right? And not everyone becomes a Sushil Kumar. Not everyone becomes a Sharat Kamal. Like Sharat Kamal, put him in the ring and he'll be beaten by Sushil Kumar. But he's an Olympic powerhouse at the age of 40.
Right.
Playing table tennis.
Right.
That's a different sport.
Yeah.
So I'm using the sports analogy to tell a person that I may be a skinny nutritionist, but I have the best Olympic performance as a person who prescribes a diet. That's my calling on this planet.
Right.
You may be the best podcaster on the planet because that's your calling.
Right.
How do you get better? How does each person out there get better in what they're doing? And I genuinely believe that food drives your spirituality, food drives your biochemistry, food drives your mood. You know, at the end of the day, I tell people, you really want to see how good you are? Stop eating good food and start eating junk for 10 days.
And you will see the difference immediate.
And so what we need to do is ask only one line. If everyone's tuning in right now, is this food worthy to enter my body? That's the line you need to use.
That's your gatekeeping.
Is this food worthy to enter my body?
Solid.
And remember, on the side, there's a mistress, your taste buds.
Right.
She's trying to tempt you.
Right.
He's trying to tempt you.
Right.
Figure it out.
Fair. Okay, so up until now, we've kind of established the necessity, sort of the psychological way of looking at this. Ki, achha, theek hai, you need a gatekeeper, you don't need to be tempted by your tongue and so on. Let me get to some real sort of actionable, right? I find, and I think most people will find, so if maybe say 1 lakh people listen to this or 10 lakh people listen to this, maybe 1% people will truly take charge, want to transform immediately. Everybody else is going to be like, yaar, itna time nahi hai dimag lagane ko, right? And every time something like this has happened to me in conversation, whether that be around nutrition or be something else, I try to give them the smallest bite that will transform a very evident part of them. Okay? So how do I create the smallest bite? When I think of myself on a day-to-day level, I'm like, yeah, what is the 2-3 simplest steps I can take that will immediately tell me that I need to focus on my nutrition? For instance, fasting is one of those things I'll try, right? I'll fast 16 hours, eat 8 hours.
That's my first point.
Right.
Our ancient families did Tuesdays and Thursdays. In Christianity, we did Wednesdays and Fridays. In Islam, we do Fridays. They used to fast on those days. We have forgotten. Generation X, Generation Y, Generation Z have forgotten fasting. So I would only tell people is, can you skip 1 or 2 meals in the week? Eat lesser. The second go-to point, drink better quality water, hydrate better.
Okay, so add salt to it?
Just drink water with a pinch of Celtic or Himalayan salt.
Right.
No exotic beverages. Like we were just talking, kombuchas and fermented coffees and this and that. Look, water, pani. If you can get better glacial water or spring water, that's the best water. I'm hunting around India to find a farm which has a natural spring in it. Not because I want the farm.
But you don't want the water.
I want the water.
Right.
My body's 60% water. So that's the second point.
So fasting, water.
Water. Third point, start walking 6 to 7 kilometers every day.
But that's kind of unreasonable, no, Ryan? 6
Why?
to 7 is a lot. Like that's like 45 minutes of walking.
Don't do it in one shot. Do it when we should have a podcast with treadmills on. You got it.
Let's go. But do you not think then, my advice would be कि भाई ऐसा कर, increase your protein intake. You'll automatically see a difference in satiation. Like you'll be much more satiated. You won't want to eat as much.
There is a reason why I went into the walking.
Tell me.
The generation today is too distracted in going go, 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 go. When you walk, you have time to yourself to think, to calm your heart rate down. And when you walk, you inform the microbes in your gut कि भाई मैं एक्सरसाइज कर रहा हूँ तो जो गुड वाला है ना
वो खड़ा हो जाता है
और जो गंदा वाला है
वो बैठ जाता
है सो देन व्हेन यू स्टार्ट वॉकिंग फॉर 3 to 6 months कुछ तो चेंजेस दिखता है
राइट
सो वैनिटी सेट्स इन देन जब पूरी आपके सामने आएगा बटाटा वाला आपका सामने आएगा तुम मेरा लाइक का नहीं है
Super, because अगर आप सुबह, if you work out in the morning, you're much less likely to eat shit through the day. Because you are like aware कि अरे मैं सुबह इतनी मेहनत करके आया हूँ, मैं ये खा लूँगा.
Yeah, and I say to people, no, don't look at it मेहनत. Like I do walking and I listen to a podcast.
Right.
I do walking and I call up my loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
I do walking and I'm like intellectually I strategize my business for the day.
Right.
Right. Now, you don't need to do walking only in the morning. A lot of people are night owls. Finish your dinner and go with your loved ones for a walk, or talk to your girlfriend on at that time, or poke your vice president of sales at that time कि भाई तू भी walk कर दो in गुड़गांव and maybe walk करेगा बैंगलोर में, हम लोग बात करेगा. बीबी को बोलो हम business meeting के ऊपर है 8 बजे, रायन ने बोला walk करने के लिए. I think because we are sedentary in today's world, we have forgotten the appreciation. Also, people are, I want to have a shift and all the gym guys are going to hate me for this. But I think 1 billion Indians need to walk because not everyone has the time to go to the gym. Not everyone has the money to go to the gym, but everyone can walk. And we are walking lesser because of metros, transportations, two-wheelers, Uber, Olas, all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And just by the fact of walking, I will be able to be getting a little bit of fat burning.
Sure.
So this is a very interesting thing. Okay, people ask me these exercise wearables which we wear and all. I did 1 hour of walking. I'm now going against myself.
Right.
I did 1 hour of walking. Kitna calorie burn kiya? 300 calorie. Now it's my God-given right that I exercise. So now I will go and eat
buy cake.
500 calories.
Right.
Reward.
Right.
मैंने कर दिया ना 200 कैलोरी एक्स्ट्रा होता है ना फिक्स्ड डिपॉजिट के अंदर जा सकते हैं. But what I have seen is over a period of 1 or 2 years of a person diligently doing this, they call out themselves. See, researchers said 21 days to make a habit. Right. They forgot to look at that scientific study clearly. It is the simplest task at 21 days and exercise and diet doesn't come in 21 days.
Right.
Okay, sorry to tell everyone this. It was 67 days to make a newfound habit for the disciplined people.
Right.
तो जो बंदा क्लासरूम के आगे बैठ रहा था, टीचर होमवर्क दे रहा है, वो when he reached home पहला किताब निकाल रहे होमवर्क कर रहा था, वो बंदा 67 days
ठीक
he gets a new habit.
Right.
The rest of the scientific study was 254 days for the lazy people. जैसा मैं था.
जैसे मैं हूँ.
हाँ. We went home.
Right.
Next
Video
morning
game.
मामा पापा से कि आपने होमवर्क कर दिया, नहीं कर दिया, अब भी बैठ जाओ होमवर्क करेगा.
फिर वो हैबिट बन गया.
So we are the type of people, it will take us 254 days approximately to get the habit. This is where diet and exercise fails. Because सब लोग को मतलब मेरे को 1 week का ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन चाहिए, 30 days का ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन, 90 days का ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन. Nobody has the patience. And guess what? Businessmen will come along and try and con you कि मैं आपका वजन काट लेगा 30 days के अंदर. ये pill, I was scared, yeah. There was a article in the newspaper about a weight loss drug coming to India. Ozempic was one. There was another one that the giant pharmaceutical is bringing. Now, the point is, I realize that the world is getting lazier.
Right.
But if people like me do not shout from the treetops ki bhai, it is in your diet and it is in your exercise.
Right.
And when I counsel thousands of people over the years, I realize there is a lazy gene in all of us.
Uh-huh.
But the moment you have a spiritual guru inside here, that your body is the most expensive
Real estate.
Or what if your body is God? Is that food worthy into you?
Right.
Will you do your prasad every day of walking 10,000 steps a day? So I think when people understand that it takes 254 days to make a habit, get started.
I think my view is different. I don't think it's habits that people are looking for at all. Right? As much as I believe that that is what they should be looking for, as much as I think that is the idealist view, वो best position है, लोगों को outcome चाहिए. And that is why vanity is the easiest motivator. Like if I'm convincing a layperson to actually get into thinking about what they eat and how they move their body. Right? Like I'm talking about pragmatics. I'm talking about realistic outcomes. So when I'm talking to a layperson, when I'm talking to the 100,000, 500,000 people that will watch this podcast, I'll tell them, listen, just listen to me. 20 days, you focus on XYZ and you will see muscle grow, you will see fat lose, you will see maybe whatever sort of vanity metrics you're looking for. And then you will begin falling into the rabbit hole of realizing, oh my God, there is more to life. There is more to life than vanity. Oh, maybe the performance angle is interesting. Right after finishing high school, I was fat. And I was visibly like uncomfortable in my overweight self. I lost all that weight and it felt great. I had huge muscles. I still kind of represent that huge muscle physique, even though I've still gained a little more. When I started looking into nutrition, 2017-18, so I lost weight 2014-15. 2017-18, when I started like eating a little differently, fasting, truly fasting. When I saw I operate at a 120% and I'm in a hyper competitive environment at Columbia University, one of the best schools in the world. I'm being outperformed on every angle. I come from a small city where I was a big fish and now I'm in a huge pond and I'm not even the smallest fish. I'm insignificant dirt. But with this nutritional sort of efficacy, ye main अच्छे से खा रहा हूँ, I'm making sure I'm eating the right stuff, I'm performing at 120%. I could never go back. Like then you've tasted what it means to truly perform. And so it started with vanity. And I feel like for most people, it begins with vanity. Vanity is the easiest way to convince somebody because most people are selfish. And selfishness either comes through tragedy, या तो ऐसा होगा कि भाई आपका HB1AC चला गया diabetic index में, ओहो अब मेरे को कुछ करना पड़ेगा, and then tragedy will force you into a sort of good position. Or it will come from, अब मैं cute लगूंगा तो मेरे को लड़के देखेंगे, लड़कियां देखेंगी. And this is where sort of the journey kind of begins for most people. Now, you are a much more experienced fellow and you meet all these sort of hyper performers, whether that be in the celebrity world or in the Olympic world. They're much more conscious. But I think our listeners are much more gross about their requirements. So tell me about, like we were talking about, you said fasting is important. You think one full day of fasting, or is it like a window, IF kind of window that you prescribe?
There are two parts to fasting. One part, as you defined, the vanity fasting, and one part is the pain fasting, PAIN. You see, I get two types of people coming to my nutrition clinic when I practice. The vanity is what we just described. I want to look good, I look cute. Shadi.com gives me the highest amount of business.
शादी से पहले सबसे ज़्यादा वेट गिरता है लोगों का भाई. ऐसे पतले हो जाते हैं लोग.
You have no idea. I know that traffic is coming from Shadi.com. Then I know this is vanity customer.
Yeah.
Okay.
इसको water weight lose होना है.
So basically in the vanity fasting, Yes, intermittent fasting, which is 16 hours of fasting and 8-hour eating window, or 20 hours of fasting and 4-hour eating window, really works well.
You lose weight.
You'll lose weight because, Prakhar,
Caloric restriction?
let's face one thing.
Huh.
Urban India is eating too much.
Yeah. I mean, I won't even fight. Maybe rural India is also eating too much. Poor India is not eating enough. Huh.
So none of us watching a podcast are poor,
Yeah.
right?
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But
Well, even if you are,
But here's the thing. The pain fasting, PAIN, works even better than the vein fasting.
Okay.
Ask me how.
Pain fasting is कि मतलब 2-3 दिन fast.
No, pain fasting is people who are already broken. People who have diabetes, hypertension, cancer. So research is showing that if your fast can hit 30 hours, you will have certain autophagy.
Yep.
मतलब सिंपल इंग्लिश में 30 आवर्स में पहुंच गया, आपके शरीर के अंदर म्युनिसिपैलिटी बाहर निकलेगा और पूरा झाड़ू पोछा करेगा.
हाँ, गंदगी साफ करेगा.
गंदगी साफ करेगा. तो गंदगी कौन है? कैंसर सेल्स.
Right.
अंडर 30 आवर्स द कैंसर सेल्स कैन हाइड.
हाँ.
जैसे इन्फिल्ट्रेटर्स होता है, तुम्हारा स्वीप करेगा, कमांडोज जाएगा, कुछ नहीं डिस्कवर करेगा 24 आवर्स फास्ट के अंदर. लेकिन 24 से 30 पहुंचने के बाद all the people who have issues will get a better metabolic outcome, because जितना भी पुराना वाला सेल और कैंसर बेस्ड सेल्स
वो मरने लगेगा. Right.
will be shot out.
हाँ.
So now the new cells के लिए भाई हमको क्या करने का? But I would advise people with medical conditions to contact a good medical dietitian.
Spot on.
Or your medical doctor. Because I'll give you an example. If you're diabetic and you start fasting and you are in the genetics of higher cancer, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, prostate cancer, colon cancer. Ryan bhai ने बोला कि fasting करने का 30 करना, but your sugar drops so low you go into coma.
Or you can get into वो keto something.
Ketosis, which is
ketoacidosis,
Yeah.
like with diabetes, right?
Yeah.
हाँ.
So you get all of these conditions. So what we're trying to do is convince people that eating less is better.
Right.
Timing it is better.
Right.
The quality of nutrition that you put into a fast, the quality of what you do. Like I always promote a water-based fast.
Yeah.
Right? There are people who promote dry fast, but I recommend dry fast is once you've done the MDS marathon, which is running through the Sahara.
Right.
Once you're at that elite level, then you do the dry fast. But if you're an aam aadmi like you and me, just don't be tempted by all the coffee chains and Swiggies and Zomatos.
But you know what? I've actually done water fasting quite extensively. And this happened to me. मेरे को ना, I had this idiopathic allergy just break out one day. And my entire skin begins to break out with these huge like urticaria, puri body, face and whatever, right? And so I had read about autophagy, and I mean, definitely not as informed as people should be, but I was like, you know what, we'll go ahead with this. And usse pehle bhi I had done a couple of 40.
One second, I just need to understand for clarity of yours.
Yeah.
You had the urticaria after fasting or before fasting?
Before
fasting. So basically, somebody's taken a lathi and begun to beat you up.
Yeah.
And so now you're thinking, I need to do fasting.
कि मैं एक बार सब कुछ eliminate करके देखता हूँ कि मेरे खाने से तो नहीं आ रही, because we could not figure out. I was taking medication, it wasn't working.
I'm becoming the podcaster interviewing him now, so I'm finding out what's happening to him. Right. Okay, so it's very interesting. So then what did you do?
So I started, and इससे पहले तक I was experimenting with intermittent fasting and keto. Right? Keto and intermittent fasting is what I was largely eating. Then this starts happening, and I'm like, okay, let me try and eliminate everything in just water.
I'm assuming your blood group is A or B positive?
No, O positive.
You're O positive.
O positive.
You're allergic to pineapple?
No. I have never found an allergy.
Okay.
I might have some like जो दिखती नहीं है ऐसी छुपी allergy.
So how did you solve this urticaria?
This was a long process, but I was talking about the water fast. But I'll tell you how I solved it. When I start fasting, 72 hours into the fast, it disappeared. And I was like, oh my God, this is magic.
आपका municipality system चालू हो गया.
Right. But then what happened is, right when I got my food at 76, 77, I was like just about to eat it, it popped up again. I started seeing it again before I'd eaten. So I realized ये तो काफी serious है. This is not even going with fasting. But in this meanwhile, the second day was weird, and you feel a little hazy, whatever. The third day, you feel elite. You don't need food. You are like, मैं तो इस चक्कर में I extended it one more day. So I fasted 4 days, just water salt. Felt great. I don't advise it because you need proper medical support, and I'm a young idiot who often makes mistakes he should not be making. Right? But I will say if you are able to do that with proper help and guidance, it's a experience unto itself, and sometimes even sort of spiritual, that experience. How I solved it, I don't know. One day it just disappeared. I tried every goddamn medication that doctors had to offer. I tried whatever I could remove and insert in my food and so on. Nothing changed. One day I'm at a wedding and it would pop up more after alcohol. So if I had alcohol, next day I'm going to break out. If there was excessive light on me, it would break out. I'd be streaming around that time. People wouldn't notice. By the time I was done streaming, it would pop out.
So Prakhar, we do a skin nutrition gene test. And like I have very weak joints,
Okay.
right? You may be having weak skin. तुम्हारा मम्मी डैडी का जोड़ी पंडित ने मैच किया, लव मैरिज हो गया. Love marriage. So you would have got a better part. What I tell India is that there's too much of pandit ka arrangement. So what's happening is we are getting married in the same communities.
Right.
So any disease that is there is being compounded. So we are finding out people with vitiligo, psoriasis, eczema, urticaria
Right.
is actually a base pair in the gene that is active, but it's dormant. And as you grow older, the skin integrity gets to get weaker because of age, because of wrong choices. So in your younger years, you have growth hormone till the age of 19 secreted. So which keeps you growing, and any damage that's there comes back. Post 20, this tends to go higher. And people tend to find their genetic issues in the 20s to 30s. The reason is that's the time they're giving maximum amount of chappal to their body.
You're
late
sitting like
nights.
this, you're eating whatever nonsense.
You eat late nights, studying or partying, alcohol,
Yeah.
cafe food, no food, too much of caffeine, etc., etc. So that would have been prevalent to the slapping that you were doing at that period of time.
Right.
I'm assuming by then now you've got enough of awareness that what are the thumbs up in your body and what are the thumbs down.
See, this is my question actually. इसको मैं question की तरह frame करता हूँ, Ryan. Is there a way to feel yourself into good nutrition, or is there only a testing yourself into good nutrition?
Absolutely. If you want to do it yourself. Or remember in the olden days you had this books called The Idiot's Guide to XYZ. So the Idiot's Guide to feeling the best way in your body is simple. Take any food. So let's say, give me an example of a food. That you
soya
want.
chop.
Soya chop. So what is the basic ingredient? Soya. Right?
Soya wheat, actually. In the
Soya.
chop, yeah.
Okay, so we eat soya chop 3 to 4 times a week, alternate days, right? Now, check your resting heart rate before you start soya chop for that week. Average it out.
Yeah.
Okay, then exercise. See your peak heart rate. So what is your top heart rate? So we've got heart rate. Second is, when you eat that food, how do you feel at that moment in your stomach? How do you feel 2 hours, 3 hours and 6 hours later? 2 hours, 3 hours and 6 hours later, because it's going through your gut.
Right.
So अगर यहाँ में कुछ gripe paining, चाकू का pain है, ये pain है, ज़्यादा burping है, note it down. Next day you'll not eat soya chop, then see how your food is digesting. So when you get up in the morning, is your nose blocked? Are you sneezing? Is there a lot of bulgum, phlegm production? You have to clear your nose. So this is a benchmark to say that कल वो जो खाना आपने खाया आपको थप्पड़ मारा. So this is a very self-home test that you can start doing.
Which is just feeling yourself through your food.
Correct. And then you can do another thing is in some of the trackers, respiration rate is taken. The average good respiration is anywhere from 14 to 18 breaths per minute. When people eat the wrong food, the breath rate goes up, BP goes up, heart rate goes up. Now, how do I know this is in Olympic level performance or breaking human performance records? You want the heart rate to be at the lowest possible level so that when you start pushing the body, mentally in chess players, physically in wrestlers, and mentally and physically in cricket players, then you want the lowest possible heart rate. Where do you get that from? You want shanti in your body. Figure out which foods give you shanti, figure out which foods give you thappad. So you can figure this out by just keeping a small food diary and writing this down. And the thing is, most people don't have time to do this. So they come and turn up with a nutritionist or the doctor and say, ki bhai, problem kya hai? So then you do testing, which is the expensive part. Then you do going to the specialist, which is the expensive part.
Right.
But if your body is the most expensive real estate and you're too lazy to do it on your own,
why wouldn't you invest in it?
You're spending 1.5 lakhs on an iPhone, so
Yeah, I'll give
your
you
body-
something insane. Okay? So I was recently sitting in a meditation retreat for 10 days, right? And I've done the same thing in America, and I was doing it in India right now. It was so weird, and it's kind of funny. I was sitting there, and every like 1 or 2 minutes, somebody would burp or fart because you're silent. Achha, by the way, I didn't mention this. You're 10 days, you're silent. And the only noise I was hearing in India was burps and farts. And I kept thinking to myself, this was not like this when I was doing it in America. And my sentiment is, Indians specifically burp and fart maybe 10 times more than anywhere else that I've ever been. And why I'm bringing this up is not out of disgust, but that is a primary marker that something that you're eating is not sitting well, because why else would you want to burp every 10 or 15 or 20 minutes?
In fact, this is a very astute and very hilarious observation, because you're absolutely right. When people come to me, I go very in-depth in potty questions. And a lot of people in India actually define burping as acidity.
Yeah, I would think that. What else is it?
No, acidity is jalan, burning.
Jalan, right.
But burping is actually wind and gas. So it could be two reasons. One, people in India talk too much, so they are swallowing in a lot of air. Or genuinely, we have been sold that milk is really good, and I hope the dairy industry doesn't
Mood is coming for you.
assassinate me for this. But
Assassinate you
milk
with
is amazingly beautiful.
Right.
It is nutritious. But if your gene doesn't agree with it,
It's
and
bad.
your dadima has told you that milk is the most important thing, I think in 2024 you just need to recheck whether you digest milk or not. Like, I love milk.
Right.
I will endorse few milk brands, but only for the people who can digest milk.
Dude, I'll tell you what, my best friend from school, every morning, he would run from his mother, who would carry a milk, "Pike ja," every morning, and we would laugh at him, right? Then I hear about lactose intolerance in my 20s. I call this guy up. I'm like, brother, now I understand why you never wanted milk. It was never about taste.
Because nobody's sitting in with you in the bathroom when you're having the loose motions.
Yeah, you could never digest it. He's like, bro, what is this called lactose intolerance? He's 25 at this point, running away from milk all his life. Everybody's laughed at him in school for this because his mother's always like, beta doodh pee ke ja. Turns out the man cannot digest this shit.
So the thing over here is that there's still in North India, more than I think 50% of the population can digest milk.
Yeah.
And I'll share the story with you. The climate in North from 1000, 2000 years ago was cold. So milk didn't spoil that fast.
Right.
The climate in South India was hot.
Hotter, yeah.
So milk from the cow would spoil faster. Therefore, dahi. Now, when you ferment milk or it breaks down, lactose is broken down by the lactobacillus, and therefore the lactose level comes very low. So your South Indian gene didn't have to process milk because the curd was the number one factor.
Right.
Now with refrigeration and modern urban India and the fridge, our thought processes drink more milk in South India, but you are lactose intolerant genetically from years of drinking spoiled milk or dahi wala milk.
Right.
Dahi. So the North Indians have a more powerful gene towards digesting milk, whereas the South Indians have a less
Strong gene for
strong
that.
gene. Well, we live in cosmopolitan cities. A North Indian marries a South Indian. A West Bengal marries a Goan.
You're just not conscious of this stuff. Like, nobody knows.
And then your children basically inherit the genes. And now you're like, okay, but it's really good for your health. I would say to people, just get tested.
Just get tested.
Just get tested. And that farting and burping in your meditation class is because everyone's doing chai, pani, coffee with little bit doodh. So that's going in and maybe fermenting.
What about gluten? Do you not think, like, I think we are so gluten heavy as eaters in India, and my view is maybe not everybody is gluten tolerant. Because I removed gluten and I stopped farting and burping.
So Prakhar, I wrote a book called Wheatless.
I see it somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was here. Yes.
So the reason I wrote Wheatless is because I'm no Pehlwan. I've been on the college powerlifting team. Very few people believe this.
Really?
And the gold medal winning powerlifting team. So I was this skinny kid in college.
Right.
Couldn't put on muscle. I would have so much of bread and milk. And I had adult acne till the age of 36 till I did my genetic testing. I wrote the book Wheatless because nobody, including medical doctors, and even today, dermatologically conditions and gut related problems. Doctors, even in cancer, are telling people eat what you want. That is wrong.
Yeah.
There is a bio individuality to a person. The way humans have evolved today, we are eating all foods, but if we lived more than 100 years ago, we didn't eat all foods.
We got what was there.
And that was very limited choices of only 6 to 8 foods,
Right.
Prakhar. So when you talk about gluten intolerance, the reason I wrote the book is millions of people do not know that they should not be eating gehu, barley and rye, because gluten is this protein that cannot digest. So the point is, not everyone can afford a nutritionist, not anyone does the testing, but a simple way to do a self homemade test is, for anyone who has acne, pimples, burning, farting, explosive potty, ab baithta hai, boom, it comes out. It should come out slow and steady. I'm sorry, I'm being a little bit gross on your show.
This is not gross to me. This is my everyday conversation.
So, kids going to potty 4 times a day.
Yeah.
Very bad, severe acne. I mean, I've pitted for life, and it's because nobody told me that I shouldn't eat bread.
Yeah.
Just avoid wheat-based items, which is biscuit, pastries, croissant, bao, pan, white bread, sliced bread. Go for gluten-free bread or go for gluten-free biscuits, which are part of the junk food.
Yeah.
Okay. Rotis will become jowar, bajra, amranth, not gehu ka roti, not barley ka roti. And basically what's going to happen, do this for 30 days.
And see the difference.
See the difference. Your potty gets better. You go only once a day or twice a day.
Right.
You stop farting more. Your skin clears up. Now you want to do one thing, add a little bit of dairy elimination over there. Skin starts glowing. You've discovered it. Now ask yourself, will you be slave to your taste buds?
Or do you want better health?
Or you have, people say, मेरे को enlightenment चाहिए. भाई पहले आप खाने के अंदर enlightenment बन कर.
पहले घर में खुश रहे, फिर enlightenment की बात करियो. हाँ.
So that's a simple thing, right?
Right?
And this is why you will see that your grandfather or my grandfather, your father or my father, by the time they're in their 40s or 50s, they know exactly what they want to eat.
Yeah.
क्योंकि आपने trial and error कर दिया.
Right.
तो बेटा दूध पीने का है. At 30, you will give thappad to anyone who says, I go home to my mom. Yeah, you keep quiet, you big shot nutritionist. You ate bread all your life, you can eat bread now. I don't go home now much to eat with my mom.
Yeah, because it's risky.
You don't want to basically tell your mom, I don't want to eat from your hand. But over a period of time, she's begun to understand because she's read my book, she's watched the podcast, and now she tells me, I think even I am gluten intolerant.
You are preaching to the choir. I cannot convince my dad. I'm like, listen, if you just stop eating roti na, I think you'll do much better. मैं कैसे रोटी छोड़ दूं, मैं तो बचपन से रोटी खा रहा हूं. So that argument, it's very difficult to convince your parents of anything.
So how I do it with the 60s plus people is I just say do the food intolerance blood test and do the genetic test. Why? Like for example, my food allergy test just came back last week. I keep doing it every 6 months. I'm a nutritionist, I want to play around with stuff. So I purposely eat food and see what happens. Does it go up in the blood test or not? The food allergy intolerance test. So for me, wheat now, because I've been avoiding it for a decade, has come in the green. But my genetics has said that I am allergic to wheat. So purposely I'll go once in a way and eat gluten. Now that next day my potty goes off, my full sinuses get clogged, and I do it 2 days in a row, I get a massive headache.
Right. See, headaches. Can you imagine, like people don't realize headache हो रहा है, गोली खा लो. अरे हो सकता है तुमने कुछ गलत खाया हो, इसलिए headache हो रहा हो.
From suicide to headaches to bad potty to bad skin, it is in your food.
Right.
And fasting represents the greatest healer in my opinion, because the human race is just eating too much. And when you break your fast, don't eat outside food.
Right.
Ghar ka khana.
Acha, similarly, IBS is a big one. People don't realize so many people run around with like an IBS situation. My best friend lives in LA and California is floating in veganism at this point. And every time I hear anything about veganism, I'm like, you could just be vegetarian. Like if you're going in that direction, particularly if you're Indian, it's much more domestic to your ancestors and eat like your ancestors did, I found is great advice. And with veganism, कभी-कभी ना वो synthetic elements add होने शुरू हो जाते हैं, like fake meat and whatever, or like इस type की चीज़ें. I'm not sure if all that processing is good for you. And so I keep telling him, I'm like, bro, maybe your IBS is because of your veganism. Maybe you just go vegetarian. Maybe you keep your moral sentiment alive, and maybe that will save you. You don't need to go to the bathroom. Like driving with him for 1 hour is torture, Ryan. He'll stop me every 30 मेरे को bathroom जाना है. You are a grown ass dude. Stop saying bathroom जाना है, पर उसको जाना है. Like उसको है issue. So and he laughs about it. It's so annoying. But so many people run around with that kind of a situation, right? IBS is so common, and I often wonder if it's because of processed food, if it's because of excessive sugar, if it's because of gluten or lactose or some kind of intolerance that they've not figured.
See, working with so many celebrities and elite clients who tell you solve the problem. IBS is a huge problem in today's world. I don't have all the answers, but I have one logic. I get slapped around, show the scientific study, tell us where there's evidence-based nutrition that what you're prescribed. Look, dude, somebody is in a scientific study, the population subset of 200, 300, 500 may not agree with your grown-ass Indian gene.
Right, yep. Mm-hmm.
Right,
and all these studies are done in America anyway.
Even if they're done in India, boss, a Telugu guy is different from a Tamilian, different from a Jat from North India.
Right.
So, when I work with a person's IBS, I start with a clean slate. That person is my scientific study. कि भाई हम साथ में करेगा. Your friend will come to me. Let's do all of the testing so that I'm not doing my trial and error. Save you the running around the stadium 50,000 laps before we figure out what's working. Do the blood test, food intolerance test, microbiome testing, genetic testing, blood testing. Done. Okay. It will give me a ballpark of what I should avoid. Now I work on the psychological basis of, can you give me the discipline to not eat these foods?
Right.
And can we go 90 days? Why 90 days? The gut lining will take 90 days to completely rechurn over.
Right.
So by 90 days, it's like brand new scaffolding and everything inside. 90% of the people come back and say, I feel like $1 million.
Can you imagine?
Now, when they finish the 6-month plan with me, psoriasis has come back, eczema has come back, IBS has come back. My first question is, what gluten did you eat? What dairy did you have? I know what did you eat? Yeah, one exposure. So then I say, you can't have that food. Then they turn around and say to me, but pura zindagi maine ye khaya. So I'm like, listen, dude, ऊपर वाला जो है ना, आपका मम्मी डैडी का इंतजाम कर दिया. अभी you do not know what great grandfather, great grandmother had in terms of back foot genes.
Yeah.
You've inherited it. There are certain foods on the planet, भाई आप तो नहीं खा सकते. You ate it out of ignorance. Now you're telling me, when you've discovered it, you're trying to negotiate psychologically with me to eat it. Eat खा ले बेटा and go running to the toilet every 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So, when people ask me why I don't take a protein shake, I get all the free protein on the planet, Prakhar.
I'm sure.
Vegan protein, plant protein, whey protein, soy
Isolate
protein, every isolate. I was born to a mummy daddy ka jodi who gave me very sensitive genes for my gut. That is why I became a nutritionist. क्योंकि कोई डॉक्टर मेरे को प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व नहीं कर सकते कि भाई तेरा गट
को क्या सीन है.
So I had to figure out that the trial and error method before all of this DNA and genetic testing was certain foods give you thappat, certain foods give you pyar.
Right.
If people can come to this conclusion on their own, like your 50, 70-year-old parent can, and they're aware, they can join the dots, they become Sherlock Holmes to their own body, they will discover that there are certain foods you can eat, certain foods you can't eat.
What do you think of sugar and the sort of either overexposure or villainization of processed sugar? Like, are we eating too much processed sugar? Because, you know what, I was hanging out with this guy, very, I would say famous and smart individual who was on the podcast. And he said, look, I'm reverse aging. And this is sort of a, elite trend. Reverse aging. And the one thing I've done is I've cut out all processed sugar and I feel like $1 million. You remember, Ansh? Right? And so, and part of the ketosis exposure that I had in my early 20s was gluten, sugar, dairy is all cut out. You cut out carbohydrates anyway. Is sugar really that bad? Is sugar okay? Like, how do I look at sugar?
Ancient evolution put sugar on fruits and trees and sugarcane, which again farmers grew, and now we have processed sugar.
Right.
I don't believe sugar or any food for that matter is actually the culprit. I'm a judge sitting in a courtroom. Defense and prosecutor sit in front of me. Sugar is now on the podium as per your question. Saab, ye to guilty hai. The defender has to come in and say, sir, please tell us that sugar is not the bad molecule. In any food you take, you have to see the dose-dependent serving. The problem with sugar is it activates the primordial pleasure center in the brain.
And max, like really activates it.
What was sugar in ancient time before we discovered sugar? It was fruit.
Yeah, fructose.
Why did you eat fruit? You ate fruit on a tree that was ripening for only 2 weeks. So, bharpur khane ka, you stored up for the winter, you got all your vitamins and minerals and done.
Right.
Today, I get mango year round.
Right.
I can eat mango 365 days. If you and I lived 1000 years ago, we got mango only for 3 months.
Right.
We enjoyed the season, that's it. So that clock that existed, where there was dose-dependent servings of seasonality, and then obviously, you had to walk kilometers to find the mango orchard and eat it. To today, ready-made punching availability, the culprit is not sugar. The culprit is you taking and putting that in your body.
All the time, 24 hours, 365
and
days.
if I go back to my number one point, the human race is eating too much.
Yeah.
Now you might say, okay, I don't eat anything, I fast, but then my first meal I break is pure processed sugar. Evolutionary wise, our genes still haven't changed. It takes 2,000 to 5,000 years for the genes to change. So I say to people is when you do sugar, make sure that you know that it's not in excess and there's no one standard serving. You're a big guy. You've got a lot of muscles. Your dose of sugar and my dose of sugar is completely different. So it's bio-individual. Second is what is your gene towards diabetes? That is how powerful is your insulin? At which age? Do you know there's an anti-diabetic gene also where people can eat copious amount of sugars? My father-in-law is an orthopedic surgeon. He eats so much sugar and he has no diabetes. There does exist that gene. And some people get it at the age of 25. So my point over here is sugar, when taken out from people's diet, they have massive improvements. If they see that, it means they were taking too much.
Okay.
I have sugar in moderation. And when I take out sugar, I don't feel any difference. But when I take more sugar, as I have creeped up towards my 50s, I'm going to be 50 in a year's time.
No way.
So my uric acid has gone up. My latest annual health checkup was showing uric acid. And then I was like, damn, it's the sugar. Right? Because I'm trying to eat more carbohydrates and protein to bulk up, to put on more muscle, because muscle is the only age reversible organ.
Yep.
But on the other side, I'm like, okay, chalta hai. I can have my rice, I can have a croissant every now, gluten-free croissant. But the moment I go 3 or 4 days without sugar, my joints stop paining.
That's so interesting. Your joints, like it's such a physical, gross feeling. Joints stop paining.
So I think we can assassinate sugar, but it's everything in terms of the pleasure sensation of how much you take. Right? So what is the solution to the problem? One is do a blood test and check your HbA1c.
Yes.
Look at your fasting glucose levels. Please look at your HOMA score and your insulin resistance.
Right.
And you can do this on your own. We can give the links later. People can test it at their own labs. And if your scores are haywire, then go meet a good health coach. Go and meet your endocrinologist. Go meet your diabetologist. And people say, I don't have diabetes, but we're going to get there.
Yeah.
We're going to get there.
Yeah.
Because there's a huge, I think about 100 million Indians or so, I'm not too sure, but we're the diabetic capital of the world. So the key reason my celebrity people are giving up sugar is, when you do this HbA1c, is called glycation of hemoglobin. It means hemoglobin gets attacked by sugar. And so glycation actually means aging. What people don't realize is sugar also attacks your DNA. So how do we age is when your DNA unravels. So DNA is protected by a process known as methylation.
Right.
So you need foods that will be methyl donors. And chiefly you have amino acids like glycine, cysteine and certain other amino acids which will give that, and your B complex, which is chiefly vitamin B9, and there's a gene known as the MTHFR gene, which a lot of us are on the back foot with that gene. So now imagine MTHFR gene as this, when you buy a new car, you put that special film protector on it. people who are born without the MTHFR gene and have a lot of sugar, it's like your car has no paint on it also. So matlab instant rusting happens. Rusting on your DNA means aging. So if the younger generation could get this understanding that one, your body is the most expensive real estate. So I think of my body as a Rolls Royce. What's your favorite vehicle?
Walking? No. I don't have one.
You don't have one?
I'm not. I'm
assume you buy
okay,
a
so
car.
like an SUV. Let's just call it a Mercedes SUV. Whatever.
I'm thinking you'll buy a Maybach SUV,
Sure,
right?
Sure.
Now, you can't change this SUV for the rest of your life.
Right. That
We
changes
change
everything.
You change everything, right? But you can't change your human body. So now would you put sugar into this SUV that you can never change, knowing that the SUV is rusting your SUV from inside out, and now 10 साल के अंदर आप खटारा दिखेगा.
बिल्कुल.
So from a vanity point of view, give up sugar. From a pain point of view, reduce your sugar because you could be in the diabetic gene pool.
Right. And no, you were so people don't realize aging is not a function of growing. Like you said, you were turning 50. I would have probably, until you told me you've been working 15 years, I would have thought like you're 35, 38 at max. So you don't look your age. There are people I know who are my age who look older than you do, and I'm half your age.
I'm 33 years of age metabolically.
Can you imagine?
So the idea is, because I'm in this profession and I know that my body is the most expensive real estate, so I may not have the Arnold Schwarzenegger gene to have big muscles like you, no matter how heavy I lift in the gym. But then I'm like, to all the fat people out there, to all the skinny people out there, to all the people with IBS out there, you can be the Olympian of your own body for the best that you can do.
You can be the best version of your own body.
Correct?
Right.
So in that, age is one thing that everyone has an same equator. You may have more muscles than me, but when both of us have age, that's doesn't have you have more age, I have more age. We will all age in a linear timeline that is uncompromisable.
Right.
But your body can slow down in aging when you make changes to your diet and your sleep and your brain meditation level.
That's insane.
So if I have that knowledge, I'm doing it to have a metabolic age at 33. The reason being is, I say this in every show that I go on. Assume I earn $100,000 a year, and now I'm 15 years younger. My net worth now is actually $1.5 million more than a Ryan Fernando who's 48 years of age and metabolically inside is 48.
Yeah.
And most of the clients that come to me are 48 years of age on the driver's license, but 65 years metabolically.
That is so spot on.
So to convince them, I tell them, reduce your metabolic age. And in doing that, you laugh all the way to the bank.
Right. So this metabolic age, I'm sure there is an element of testing involved in it, and I want to keep it towards the very end so people get that sort of kick there. But before that, I have a couple of more questions. And this is all layperson questions, right? There is also fashionably, and even if it's not media fashion, it's like, मैं कहीं खाना खाने गया, यार ये नहीं, I don't want carbs. Or the opposite, which was more prevalent 10 years ago, oh, I don't want fats. And carbs versus fats is this eternal sort of nutritional battle that people play out in their head, right? At this point, I feel like every time I'm scrolling through a Swiggy or Zomato and they mention, or jo restaurant hoga, they'll mention how much protein, etc. they have. From my nutritional understanding, it's almost always wrong. Because ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता, you're making something in bread and you're claiming it's 8 grams carbohydrates. Like, this is bread. One slice of bread will have more carbohydrates than 8 grams. And what I'm trying to say is that there is this sort of consciousness, but there is this ill-informed consciousness around carbohydrates and fats and how that should be part of your system. Which one is better? Because also there is fat-based diets and carb-based diets. No, like how does one see this matrix, carbs and fats?
I get this question being asked to me by all celebrities when they sign up. So I've got another film star signing up, and last week he asked me the same question. Which diet do you think I should follow? I said, let's test. And the reason I say this is not because I want to do the diagnostic testing, but I've come to the logical conclusion that when I put a CGM device, a continuous glucose monitor on my arm, I don't have diabetes.
Right.
And my brother did it. When he drinks orange juice, he doesn't get a sugar spike.
Yeah.
When I drink orange juice, I get a sugar spike.
Right.
Same genes.
Right.
Same culture.
Right.
Same background. Brothers. He's allergic to orange juice. I'm not allergic to orange juice. But I get the sugar spike when I have the orange juice. So what am I trying to communicate? Every individual is bio-individual.
Right.
You should test a low carbohydrate diet.
Right.
You should test a low carb, high fat diet. You should test a low fat, low carb diet. And you should just do a high carb and
forget the rest.
My point is, you will come to a conclusion tracking your heart rate, your blood biochemistry. What are the markers? Your inflammatory markers are ESR,
Right.
C-reactive protein,
Yes.
D-dimer, IL-6.
Right.
In your lipid profile, I look at normal LDL, HDL, VLDL. I look at lipoprotein A, lipoprotein B. If you're in the West, we can look at the nanomer construct of the particle size of the cholesterol, which is actually what we should be looking at.
Right.
And I also look at your vitamin and mineral profile.
Right.
So, for example, when you change the diet, when I do a moderate carbohydrate and protein that is 1.5 grams, my entire blood chemistry is perfect. The moment I try and do low carb and high protein and high fat, my vitamin profiles goes for askew. I don't understand the mechanisms, but I'm looking at the outcome. So people should base their dietary strategies based on a little bit of self-testing on themselves.
Sure.
And the problem is nobody has the time to do it, but slowly with all of the apps and these diet planning apps and all, and Healthify Me and MyFitnessPal and Gabbit and all of these brands that are coming out here in India, they're able to give people a self-help methodology check.
Yep.
So people then come in and say, I did ketogenic and I got this result. Now all of his friends around are thinking like, I don't have the time to do this testing that this guy did, which is the self-help food diary and trial and error and going disciplined for 90 days. So they follow that person.
Right, exactly.
And out of 10 friends, 4 or 5 will be successful in that. So they become part of that
Cult.
Okay.
It is like that, you know.
And so I say full power to friends that are coming together. In fact, there was this survey done that if the organization gives more fruits, the productivity of the employees goes up. If you're surrounded by more productive employees who work out in the gym in an office,
more people get healthy.
The productivity in the office increases.
Yeah.
Right? Absenteeism goes down and all. So I think sometimes when you have these cult followings, but you're not really sure of the health following, it still works. Why does it still work? It's like religion.
Yeah, it's mimetic.
It's like religion. Some people are born into a religion. They're kind of practicing the religion, but because they're practicing that religion, they're a good human being.
Right.
Vis-a-vis somebody doing no religion at all.
Right.
I'm not saying about God exists or doesn't exist. I'm just saying when you get a group of people together and you have certain...
Community works.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, right?
Yeah.
Like people are induced by other people into that. That is why they watch this stuff, right? Like they listen to you and they're like, yes, I'm thinking like this. And they make internet friends with guys like you and me.
Massive change post-pandemic. I think people got into community because they were forced to be isolated.
Yeah.
And they realized the value of colleagues at work, family.
Like-minded people around
I can
the
check my nutrition because I don't have too much time to prepare 3 meals a day. Zomato and Swiggy was not delivering for 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, right.
Right? So, ghar ka khana banana padega. You have to work out at home because you are bored. How much of Netflix can you really watch? And so, I think that realization globally has gotten people shifted towards, taking the pill of good health.
You know what I'm realizing talking to you is that all these layperson questions are almost irrelevant until we get to testing. Because it seems like there is you keep insisting this bio-individuality that people should figure out for themselves. And let me make a point यहाँ पे. Truly, genuinely, मतलब आदमी क्या career choose करूँ और किस शहर में रहूँ और क्या मेरा life partner होना चाहिए, उस पर इतना दिमाग लगाता है, उस पर इतने algorithms लगाता है. The complete body checkup test that you can get on a Tata 1mg or an app similar to that, where the phlebotomist will come home, take your blood and deliver the result on your phone the very same day, is 1,000 rupees. It's really not that much, right? The algorithm is cheaper, much cheaper and much shorter in and I get these done every 2 months or so, right? So CRP, ESR, like you were mentioning, vitamin profile, mineral profile, trigs, all the LDL, HDL stuff. testosterone and so on and so forth, just to get an idea of where I'm at. I don't know how to make sense of it completely, but say if my uric acid, and it was when I came back, HB1AC and uric acid were a problem. My uric acid was, I think it should be like 7 it was 13, 11 for a while.
No jokes.
No. And like no joint pain, no nothing. But we were all like, what is happening? Why is it like this? What is the reason?
Was it too much of sugar?
No, well, maybe I've been through some tough periods of my life, and maybe too much eating, maybe unhealthy eating. Now it's come back down. Now it's like 6, maybe 5 something, 5 to 6 ka range. HB1AC was 5.6. It came down to 4 something. And I haven't gotten this done in like the last couple of months. But when I'd just gotten back, I was like, from America, which was October, I was like, I need to get this done. And it's literally 1 day turnaround time to get that. But there is other tests you're talking about too. So tell me a little bit about what this kind of testing should be and how should somebody think like that?
First of all, you don't need to do it every 2 months. The overall health, which is the cholesterol panel and the kidney panel and just your basic markers, should be done once every 6 months.
Okay.
The vitamin and mineral profile should be done once a year.
Okay.
The food allergy or the food intolerance blood test can be done once in 3 years. If you're a little bit crazy about your body and your vanity is very high, then do it every year. That's basically to reduce the inflammation. When you do this blood test, and I actually predict by the time you get white hair, there will be a small patch that we'll wear on the skin, which will actually give you real-time data of all these blood tests.
I'm sure.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. They're going to find a way, like the CGM device is giving you real-time glucose monitoring. We'll have real-time uric acid monitoring, real-time cholesterol monitoring. So literally, I predict that the future Siri or Alexa will be like, Prakhar, today you're not eligible to eat anything. Please refrain from eating and drink only Jeera water.
I'm waiting for that moment where AI takes over my life.
A lot of us will have cricket bats and hockey bats to break that piece of device.
Every morning, Sale, kya bola tu? Huh? I want my laddu. Huh?
But it will come about that the future generations also, and I say this with a little bit of pinch of salt and sugar, people talk about carbon footprint. You want to start? When you go to the airlines and they say, sir, your bags are overweight. Who, my bags or me? Society is eating more calories than you require. So if you had to be an electric vehicle and you were in the Olympics of performance of an electrical vehicle battery and powered vehicle, so minimum charging, maximum mileage, you'd win the war. So if you're a human being, minimum charging, maximum performance, your carbon footprint on the planet would be the least of overburden to the planet. So ask yourself this question. If people are eating more than they require, then they are asking for crops or food to be available to them, not for functioning capacity, but for a taste capacity.
Right.
So each one of us, including you and me, are guilty of excess consumption and therefore causing a carbon footprint.
Right.
So before you think about buying an electric vehicle or changing to greener methodologies,
Right.
change the food on your plate. Eat to your bio-individuality, eat to your capacity. I name my clinics Qua Nutrition. Qua in Latin means incapacity of. We are not taught to eat to our capacity. Right? So if I'm fat, I'm told to starve. If I'm skinny, I'm told to eat more. Not necessary. You have to figure out what is the requirement of your human body, which is the genetic part. What is your requirement today as a podcaster? What is my requirement as a nutritionist? How much work will I do? How much exercise will I do? And am I eating in that frame?
Okay. So for these tests, does somebody come to a nutritionist or can they get them done themselves? Like, how does this work? Like, if I want to do
I love India because as of now, we can get these tests done by just calling up the lab, the genetic test, the microbiome test, and even the blood test. Whereas if you go to Europe or West, you need a doctor's prescription to get this done.
It's heavy. Yeah.
And I love our country because I think the democratization of that is very important.
Yeah.
Because there is no harm in knowing.
Right.
The moment you control that, and many doctors disagree with me on this, and maybe they have their own points and they can make their arguments that it will bring in health anxiety and stuff like that, which it does.
But that's a secondary consequence. There's a primary issue first, no?
I think the more testing we do, the government will realize it'll have to spend lesser on healthcare GDP in the futures.
Sure. And is that I'm not sure I follow the consequence of that argument.
Diabetes, hypertension, heart attack capital of the world.
Yeah.
What will the government policy have to do over the next 50 years for a generation of people that do not eat out of science, they eat out of their taste buds? It means you're going to have a sicker nation,
Yeah.
which means you're going to have to invest more significant resources from your GDP
Right.
towards taking care of a younger population
Right.
that is sicker.
Right. Right. So that's good, no? That's overall, isn't that good for the government? Less money spent on healthcare?
No, what I'm saying is because you're not taking care of people in terms of
Their
exercise
nutrition.
and diet and nutrition, we're going to have a younger, sicker population. So where does the burden lie if it's not controlled by privatization?
Right.
And right now, all the medical care is predominantly driven by private.
Right.
Right? So the burden comes upon the government as poorer people move into middle class.
Right.
And when you have more disposable income. So I'll give you the statistics.
Huh.
The latest survey from the government said that for every 100 rupees that Indians are spending, 40 rupees goes towards food. In 1999, 56, I think, rupees or so went towards food, which means what? Lesser is going towards food now because you have more disposable income.
Right.
So you are not like struggling to make ends meet. It's improved. But in this 40 rupees, 10.8 rupees is going towards processed food and beverages. And 3.8 rupees is going towards fruits and 3.8 rupees is going towards vegetable. So my logic is India is getting richer, but India is not changing its food eating habits to being healthier. And I see that because we are not eating healthier, we will be a younger population, but a sicker population. And therefore the government will have to tax sugar, will have to tax people who are overweight. I don't mean this in a bad way. I mean that, how did you stop smoking? I love our country because you stop smoking in public places. You go in Europe, people are still smoking in cafes.
Right.
I love this. When I'm around in cafes, I tell a foreigner, you can't smoke over here.
Right.
Because we have evolved.
Right.
Because it's hurting everybody around.
Around you, right.
Right? So sometimes you have to enforce policy because people may not be smart enough or may not want to
Make the best choices.
The best choices for a whole progressive population to go to the next level.
Sure. And I mean, the tax that you mean is not literal tax, but policy tax. It could be like some kind of subsidization or desubsidization of stuff as well.
No, I just mean you tax biscuits and aerated beverages much more because 10.8 rupees went towards
Biscuits.
biscuits.
Yeah.
So what if an apple and a banana became cheaper than biscuits?
That would change, and like much cheaper than biscuits.
Because one
it's
part
already-
is to give education, and it's going to take us 3 generations for everyone to evolve to a level of Swedish country, Scandinavian country of living and roti kapda makan, you know the concept.
Yeah.
So the top of the pyramid are the people who are the richest. But we have this huge seismic amount of people in India to get to the top of the pyramid. Along the way is the temptation of all of the junk foods. Along the way is the temptation of all the fast food companies. Along the way is as we're getting richer, we're spending more in processed foods and beverages. Inadvertently because of whatever reasons. So either government does it in terms of more educational policies. Like I would love to tell the finance minister in the next budget, could you please allow people to spend 10,000 rupees on a diet plan as a tax deductible element?
80DDE. Huh.
So I do ELSS.
Right.
Huh?
Right.
1.5 lakhs are put to save tax. You also must be doing it.
Yeah.
What if we could give the blood testing as part of ELSS? What if we could give diet plan? What if we could get a yoga plan or a fitness plan annually as a tax deductible element? Do you know how many more trainers would start paying GST? Do you know how many more nutritionists would start paying GST?
Yeah.
You know how many more people would just take it up because it's a tax element?
Yeah. That's the whole point of giving tax deductibles, is to incentivize behavior.
So can we incentivize good behavior in diagnostic testings, exercise variables, and nutrition?
I don't know, but it sounds like a very smart idea, because that should probably be. You are very right. The fact that we have the largest population in the world. We are on the cusp of becoming major economy, major cultural force in the world, and the worst thing that could happen to it is that we are physiologically not okay. And so, you were bringing up this study from Australia or America, like in the early parts of the podcast. There was a study I read about toxoplasmosis, which is this microbiome that if that enters your body, you are much more likely to be violent, and by a huge magnitude. And this is generally found in rats and cats, but sometimes gets into human food as well. And to the degree they found that most people that are involved in road rage or road crashes of any nature, where they're driving very fast, generally have toxoplasmosis in them. And it's a single virus or bacteria, I'm unsure, that changes the entire nature of behavior.
So
yes.
On this same line, I've had my entire gene profiling done. And that specific microorganism, I have a genetic sensitivity to it. So my gene test has advised me not to eat meat, raw fruits, raw fish, and sushi type products.
Because you might get toxoplasmosis.
Which will also make me aggressive.
Super aggressive. Not just aggressive, like super aggressive. And so it goes on to just say, like, there are all these determinants built into how we are eating and how we are behaving in like this exercise, nutrition, sleep sort of trifecta that inform where the country goes 50, 60, 70 years down the line. वो जब भी मेट में line है ना 1 inch का दूरी, and then like it changes into millions of kilometers later. And so like as we enter this place where we are having more disposable income, where the middle class is growing, where the upper middle class is growing, and we are spending money left, right, and center. Maybe there is an incentivization possible, because frankly, my criticism of the finance bill every year is 25% of finance bill is always checking the errors we made last time. So let's make it 24% this time. 1% we maybe can add this health incentive, this testing, diagnostic, gym incentive, yoga incentive that will transform the way 60, 70 years down the line that this country will shape up to be. We definitely do not want the constant question mark. Ryan, me and my family discusses, how is this 27-year-old having a heart attack? How is this like 23-year-old pooping green suddenly? And that is, well, there's one thing for older people to be sick. It's one thing for younger people to be that sick. And we don't want that. For this country, for our individual selves, we don't want that, right? And so maybe that's a very smart idea.
Prakhar, I've had many Indians in their younger years, the under 30s coming to me. So obviously, India is getting richer. So a lot of the middle class are also coming to our clinics. And they're coming earlier, and they have these life-threatening stuffs. Liver transplant, liver cirrhosis, fatty liver, pooping green, as you said, irritable bowel syndrome, psoriasis, eczema and all.
PCOS, PCOD, all this.
The thyroid problem. 6 months on a nutritionally dedicated program, boom, everything disappears.
You know what? Let's do this, okay? Suppose I want to change starting tomorrow. And I'm a fairly healthy individual. I can be mean, median for most people watching this, okay? I'm 28. What do I do tomorrow?
Start eating organic first.
Okay.
Eat lesser.
Okay.
Have a weighing scale that tells you the body fat percentage and visceral fat, so that अगर आप ज़्यादा excess कर रहे, आप उसको pull back कर सकते हैं.
ठीक है.
Do a blood test once a year.
Blood test once a year.
Okay. Keep 1 hour a day for no technology hovering around you.
ठीक है.
And you get 7+ hours of sleep at one stretch.
Okay.
Eat your last meal 3 hours before going to bed.
Okay.
Get exposure to sunlight as the sun is setting.
Okay.
It helps you in deeper sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about walking.
Walking? No, but I mean testing wise. Like, how do I first figure out where I'm at? So you said genetic testing. Is there a specific name for this test?
No, we call it nutrigenomics,
okay,
where your nutrition gene is assessed,
okay,
to see what are the genes that are thumbs up for your nutrition or thumbs down for your nutrition.
ठीक है.
It extends into the fitness gene testing. If money is not an issue, then you kind of do it for, can I work out long endurance, or am I a power athlete?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a injury gene in me? Do I have a collagen less gene in me? So there are hundreds of parameters that are being discovered.
In just the nutrigenomics test?
In just the nutrigenomics. And then you can get into what we call as a health screening.
Mm-hmm.
So I do the complete health screening genomic profile, wherein like for example, I know I have got the hemochromatosis gene. I have a cardiomyopathy gene which affects my heart. So now I'm because I got the genetic test, I went and got my father tested.
Mm-hmm.
In the 2D Doppler scan, the CT scan, all of those things, like Papa to sahi hai, Mama to sahi hai. So there's something called as winning the genetic lottery.
Mm-hmm.
The gene is present, but it doesn't express itself.
It's a recessive gene.
It's a recessive gene. So that kind of gives me a little bit of comfort that I'm constantly testing. But it's also said, boss, if you fool around, you could have this. So I'm more cautious about taking care of my health.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of people out there very bindas. They don't want to know these things and they're like, jo aayega, aayega. But when it does come, 99% of the people are willing to throw all their wealth at that just to make it disappear overnight.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it doesn't.
Prevention is so much better than cure.
I have billionaires who will throw stuff at things and they will still have to suffer because money doesn't change the outcome of the disease.
Fair. So there is a nutrigenomics, there's a food allergy, there is the complete blood test.
Yeah, you can do the microbiome poop analysis. I also do the omega-3 blood testing to know your omega-3 levels in the blood. Because I think nutritionally, if you check, then it is preventive medicine. Because of nutritional lacuna, certain conditions will begin to manifest itself over a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year period. And if you see, all diseases start coming in your 40s to your 60s.
Yeah. One of the realizations I had sitting 10 days in silence was, boss, I'm still lucky to have a very fit body. Well, the other realization was I'm still very lucky to have my parents and to have time to love them. The other one was things can get better now. Things can get better to the point where I may not have to suffer at a very early age or maybe even at a later age. And so, I didn't expect this to happen, Ryan, frankly. But I'm feeling like I want to call you up after this and be like, boss, let's start with this testing.
Because your body is the most expensive real estate.
Yeah. No, but I mean it. I'm like, bro, मेरे को ना पता करना है कि मेरे को कोई ऐसा heart part का, I want to know my genetics and I want to understand my microbiome and I want to go ahead with that. This is what I'm genuinely feeling. Now, this might be just because we're talking right now, but I think this is the next step for my health. I genuinely feel that.
I'll share a story with you, confidential story. We can't take the name of the client. We did the entire screening. So erectile dysfunction comes up high over there.
Mm-hmm.
Like a 9 rating on 10, where 10 is like the gene is really at a high level. And
damn, dude, that just gave me anxiety. Sorry.
So this kid is a self-made dollar millionaire, hundreds of millions, and has a Ferrari, has a Maybach, has everything and all. We did the test and wants to know. And then he called me. I was like, Ryan, this is untrue. I am banging 4 times a day after this with my wife. वाइफ थे आपको क्या हो गया रायन साहब ने बोला मेरे को erectile dysfunction है मेरे को टेस्ट करने का है I said sir that's not now I said do me a favor call up your dad and ask he's like how can I ask my dad about this
is a great story by the way.
Basically I was like तेरा पापा का नंबर मेरे को दे दो मैं कॉल करेगा so he said okay you get him on a call but we do his genetic testing so we did it पापा को भी erectile dysfunction है तो पापा काउंसलिंग रूम के अंदर था nobody else was there I was like sir erectile dysfunction yeah around 42 I started realizing that I didn't want to do it that much and by 45 flag hoisting began to go down luckily for me my wife achieved menopause early तो हम बहुत खुश है so son broke out into sweat because son put a gun to my head says Papa ka confidentiality I'm signing I'm paying up I need to know what my father is going to go through I told the father can I tell your son what about you he said yeah you can tell him. So the discussion was amazing. The guy who is smoking now drives a Ferrari Maybach. The day he heard this, threw out the cigarette.
Yeah.
Right? Because now he's like, okay, what are the things that are going to reduce blood circulation to my penis? What are the things that are going to reduce blood circulation to my brain? And what are the things that are going to improve my sex performance with my wife?
Damn, dude, sex is truly the greatest motivator of all time.
So basically, I mean, he didn't have problem at 28, but father said at 45, it was not working, right? So my thought process to people is, my dad's cardiomyopathy gene is not there, touch wood, at the age of 76 for him. So I'm kind of chilled out. But cancer, for example, the BRCA1 and BRCA2 gene in breast cancer, I believe every woman on the planet that starts her menstruation cycle, it should be mandated by the parent or the government or God. Please go get your BRCA1, BRCA2 gene test done. Because do you know you have two fertility molecules in you, estrogen and progesterone.
Yeah.
And your breast cancer is coming in from your hereditary, and certain women will be prone to ovarian or breast cancer because of the dietary impact of this estrogen and progesterone.
Damn.
Like for example, jeera water is high in estrogen. As a nutritionist, I'll happily give jeera water. But what if that could be triggering because you have a certain wiring rod in you?
Right.
And all the women today are finding it difficult to conceive. So IVF clinics are going up left, right and center. So you're going through lakhs and lakhs of fertility treatment. I had a client who got breast cancer because of fertility treatment.
Oh shit.
But what should have been done was, before you start the fertility treatment, please do your BRCA1 and BRCA2 gene test.
You know, I have a running joke with Americans when I tell them, dude, I don't know what advanced society you've produced because none of you can get pregnant. Like none of you can get, what is happening? Because you're eating something that's messing this up. This is not genetic. Like this is not like, Indians don't even try and they're pregnant tomorrow. Like something happens by accident, oh, pregnant हो गई. वहाँ पे वो लोग 6 महीना लगा के कैलेंडर सब मैच करके प्रेग्नेंट होने की कोशिश करते हैं. And I feel like that is so nutritional. Am I right in thinking that?
It's all nutrition. It's got to the processed foods. It's got to the microplastics. It's got to, for example, you know, if there was one documentary where a leading fertility, I don't know what the doctor is called, talking about how the differentiation between the anal opening and the penis shortens when the mother is exposed to more pseudoestrogens. And therefore the gay behavior begins to set in because the hormonal impact in pregnancy, and therefore its impact on the imprinting of the DNA
Right.
to the unborn child is moving them away from the XY chromosome to the XX chromosome, but you still have a penis, but you feel you are not male.
That's so interesting.
So when people commit suicide, I'm like, अरे यार खाना सही नहीं खाया. When people are gay, I'm actually being insensitive and I say, maybe your mother didn't eat correctly or there was contamination.
Right.
Maybe the fertility treatment was impactful.
And that is not to invalidate anything.
I'm saying if you are...
You're just talking about the determination of behavior.
I'm only trying to make sense that, is this, we are observing it because we have more technology today, or is this because of the way we are living our life today? And my small minuscule thing is living the life and watching that our people diet and chemical exposure. So coming back to the cancer case.
Sorry.
So the lady got breast cancer because she was undergoing fertility treatment. And so we need to test early. So I actually had a marital argument with my wife. And I said, nothing doing, we have to get you tested. And then I had a discussion with a lot of women who are my clients, and I say, why don't you want to get tested? No woman wants to be told that she may get breast cancer and she would have to remove her breasts. Think about it, no? It's a sense of identity, right? So I think more awareness has to be created, because I have now a lot of teenage clients who have BRCA1, BRCA2 at the higher risk element. So suddenly these teenage girls are eating so disciplined when they're studying in America. They have a whole list of what to eat, what not to eat. They're very particular about organic food. And these are the girls that would go through life and be given information by the gynecologist to have children earlier. Like Angelina Jolie removed both her breasts. So there would have been proper scientific documentation on why. Because her mother passed from breast cancer. She had a few aunties that were lost to breast cancer. So a film star removing her breast tissue, mammary tissue, is seismic. So this knowledge is now trickling down, but I think anyone undergoing fertility treatment, they should request the breast cancer gene test. I am no cancer specialist, but I just see incidences where people come to us for oncology nutrition. What oncology? Breast cancer. How did it happen? Oh, I went for IVF treatment. but there are millions of people with IVF who conceive.
Yeah.
I'm only saying that bring in one more element.
Just be more aware, be more knowledgeable, get the whole situation
Correct.
sorted. Yeah. This is not to villainize anything at all, like just so that people know, because people
In
can jump at
fact,
shit.
when we do the whole gene scanning, the females can opt to choose, do I want to discover my fertility genes? Do you know certain women are born without the ability to produce an egg that can fertilize?
Sure. I mean, I'm
Right?
assuming genetic variation.
So it is you're an outlier. But societal pressure is that you have to conceive.
Yeah.
Now, if you go for IVF and you don't have the gene that you can conceive, now you're subjecting your body to so much of hormonal imbalance. So I think we're getting there, where I'm so excited when artificial intelligence comes out truly in its avatar. People say it will be dangerous. Yes, it may. I'm looking at the other side where it's able to connect all these dots.
Right.
Like, for example, today a lot more people are having road rage. I believe the connection is linked to the EMF radiation that exists in our society.
Dude, you are yes, there is so much EMF that is messing with our brainwaves so deeply. Like, I see, the other side is I keep hearing about how AirPods are dangerous because we put them right here and the EMF passes through. I have actually tried transcranial MS also, right? And it truly helped me sleep better. Like the one time I tried TCMS, it knocked me out. So I know for a fact that it works very empirically. That was not even like meditation. It felt like I was floating in some alien territory when they put this, and it was an experimental product. So I know that there is, but this EMF stuff is super real. We have a tower right here, right? And that has to have an impact. It cannot be zero, no? We're probably microwaving our brains.
So I think when we look at cancer today, when we look at road rage today, when you look at longevity, all of these factors, we are advancing as society. And the only protection, in my opinion, is your sleep, your exercise and your diet, which you personally control.
Right.
The government doesn't have control on that. You have control on that.
That's your fort.
That's your fort. And if you can guard this fort is the only fort you own.
Damn.
So what you put into your body is so seismic. How you treat your body is so seismic. Like, I can't do a lot of things where I stay or the city I live in. Like, I can't control the organic food coming to me, but I can still go and hunt out the organic farmers.
Yeah.
So awareness breeds more followers, more community. Community puts pressure on society.
It induces behavioral change.
Yeah. That's exactly why I think just getting Fardeen Khan to do his body transformation is so inspirational, because I get 100,000 followers. In fact, this time when we didn't qualify as the Indian hockey team, I was so disappointed. So my wife was like, why are you disappointed? We didn't qualify the Olympics. I was like, dude, do you realize if they had qualified for the Olympics, how many millions of girls would have been motivated to stay fit? When PV Sindhu won an Olympic medal,
it changed an entire generation.
I saw my clinic's phone number line ring 600% more for the next 3 days for girl-child nutrition.
That's insane.
So we need to have these moments of influencers influencing people to eat better, train better. And I love what the Prime Minister is doing in terms of, doing yoga and then all of these millets programs and all. People are trolling influencers out there.
Right.
Stop and reflect internally.
Of course. I know that.
And say, what is it that I can do to make this world a better place?
Right.
Starts with you. Change your diet, change your exercise, change your sleep pattern.
Spot on. I think India is going to be the best chess nation in the world in 5 to 10 years because of one man, Vishwanath Anand. Because he was the influence that created this entire situation where we have an army of grandmasters. Back when I was a kid, when I started playing chess, there was one Indian grandmaster. That was Vishy. At this point, we have 70 odd grandmasters in like 10-15 years. That's an insane. And all of them are qualifying to be like. And so, completely agreed. I started playing chess because of him. And about the reflection part and influences and so on is completely spot on. But tell me this, right? This is my last question. How do I get in touch with you? Because I'm like, okay, man, I'm going to be, the environment's the environment, the city's the city, my life's my life, my history, my genes, my microbiome's my microbiome. I need to figure this out and start moving. Me personally, I'm not even saying this for content. I'm genuinely saying this for me. How do I get in touch with you to become physically the best version of myself? Where do I find you?
So very simple. I practice at the Qua Nutrition Clinics. What people don't realize is we've been doing this for a decade and a half.
Right.
I've built a teaching nutrition school in our clinical practice. I came from Goa Medical College, where you saw professors teach you live in the clinical and the hospital practice. I started that in the nutrition clinic. So today I have 80 health Avengers with me, with the Avengers team of health. What we do is you reach out to us at Qua Nutrition and we ask you to do all of these tests and we start you on a simple 3-month, 6-month plan.
Okay.
And we engage with people not with technology like most of our competitors do. They try and make it without people. I'm a huge believer of health coaching with people.
Okay.
We Indians believe in Guru Dakshina.
Yeah.
So
unless there's a person, I don't want it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's how you reach out. And it's as simple as a phone call. Tell us what you want. Tell us what is your goal and vision. Either it's vanity or it is pain. If it's vanity, we put you in the Fardeen Khan, Shahid Kapoor silo or Virat Kohli silo. If it is pain, then we put you into the medical part of the program. And somewhere in between are the Olympic superstars who get in touch with us. Those are the people I personally handle.
Okay.
And it's because my background is I'm a sports nutritionist and a clinical biochemist.
Right.
And with no offense to you, Prakhar, only when you have a mindset of being the Olympian in your body do I take on those clients.
Sure.
The reason being is this, everybody has money today.
Right.
But the conviction to do is the excitement I get.
Sure.
So I limit myself to a few Olympic level superstars. And so if it's a CEO of a company, if it's a podcaster like you, I'm looking at what are we defining? Where are we going? And can I have a significant impact on your life?
Solid.
Because if it doesn't happen, I'm very scared. You know why I'm scared?
That I will hate you.
No, I'm very scared that you have now tick boxed the thing saying that diet and nutrition personalized doesn't work for me.
Right.
And that's scary because
You've closed the door.
You've closed the door. And then I have nightmares on this. So sometimes when clients get angry with us and ask for a refund of money and all, I actually call them up and say, please give us another 6 months. And they'll know, I'm very angry with your nutritionist. I'm very angry with you. I don't think I can do this process. And I'm like, please do it for another 6 months and we will comp you on that.
Just don't lose faith in the eating, the nutritional part of it.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
I may not have the solution, but the solution is nutrition.
Right.
The solution is eating correctly. And maybe you haven't given yourself enough of time to get to that level.
Solid. Okay, do you have any questions for me?
I have. Why is a younger generation today in India so driven, so powerful that, we're getting all of these champions in sports and in, the IITs and IIMs. And I just see the number of Indians going abroad to study. Yes, we have more money. But why as a race, we Indians, you're the young generation, so motivated, but when it comes to taking care of their health, that's in a backseat. What do you think is your experience or your friend circles following?
So, look, I'm a huge fan of never defining a generation by, how they make this argument, oh, this generation is this or this generation is that. I always say this generation had different macro cultural and macroeconomic factors. So money, even though we would like to remove, is a factor. The fact that Indians not just have, when I was a kid, we had Disney TV. So I could see all this American nonsense, but I had no money or no place to spend that money and acquire that sort of American lifestyle. To put it very, very simplistically and cartoonishly. Now, India has not just the access, but also the money to spend on that access and sort of fulfill its cultural potential that it grew up on. That's one thing. So I'm watching all these Hollywood movies and I'm watching all these Bollywood movies. And earlier, this is a class above. Now, this is a class close to home. I can learn jiu-jitsu in the next sort of place. So when I watch an MMA fighter in UFC, I want to be an MMA fighter and there's a way to do it. That's one thing. And so Indians who were raised on a culture have now the economic outlet to perform it. One big reason is that. The second thing, Ryan, and I think this is generational, cultural, is that when people don't acknowledge the fact that they will die, people have no conception of growing old. That is in fact the one malady, the one disease, that one problem that we want to be drunk against. मेरे को बताओ ही मत मैं बूढ़ा होने वाला हूँ, मेरे को ignore करवा दो. So many people who are watching have gassy issues, have potty issues, have XYZ ABC issues, and they've had it for years. But they don't want to be woken up to that because that reminds them of their mortality. And young people don't want to remember their mortality because if they did, they would not be binge drinking. And which population does not binge drink when they're 19, 20, 21? All populations do. Youth is a nasha unto itself.
I love that line. Youth is a nasha unto itself.
Yes, and youth, we were talking about my parents earlier. I was talking to my mom about getting married and stuff, and now me looking to get married and stuff. And my mom looks back at her and she's like, I did some things back in the day, I don't know why. And I'm like, Mama, youth is a nasha unto itself. Now you're older, you're much more mature, you look back, you're like, I was a 20-year-old idiot. I think of that as a 10-year-old, like when I look 10 years back. Youth is a nasha unto itself, and people will always go for vanity when they're young than maturity, sensibility, pain, and all these things. My cousin, I met him he lives in New Jersey. He was talking one day. He's like, Prakhar, right now you're 25, 26, it's whatever. I'm now 40, my joints hurt. And that happens very fast. And it stuck with me. I was like, this guy was young 10 years ago. And now he's talking about joint pains. And this happens very quickly between responsibilities, having kids, making sure your business works, chasing your vanities, going on those foreign trips. One day, it just hurts. One day, it just hurts. And you're still so fond of staying asleep. You're still so fond of that youthful nasha that to not feel the joint pain, you're drinking alcohol at night. To not feel that joint pain, you're smoking your cigarettes or whatever. You set it off with improper behaviors. And my experience is, and this is very humbly submitted, this is not content and it's not something I tell to people. The more I've gone inwards in my life, the more I've aligned with the fact this is my body. I have flat feet. Functionally, not functionally, genetically flat. My dada, papa, everybody. I know joints are going to be an issue. So I have to wake up every morning and stretch my calves and my thighs and my quads out so that they don't tighten. If I walk 45 minutes, sometimes my back stiffens up because I have flat feet or the entire chain of muscle is not working. I got into physiotherapy and muscular science very early on for this reason. I did Vaishno Devi climb once, could not climb back. Could not climb down because my back stiffened. I couldn't stand up. And I was like, what is this? I'm 17. What is happening? So the minute you start to wake up to this and the minute you start fixing this and the minute you start seeing changes after, say, fasting or doing a specific dietary profile, and you can never go back to drinking for pleasure. Drinking's still fun. I'm not fighting that. I'm a young guy. I'm not going to pretend here and preach, oh, kabhi daru mat piyo.
But you won't drink
for pleasure.
Yeah, you drink out of what I call as responsible drinking.
Yeah, कि चल हम बैठे हैं कभी we had one drink and it's okay, right? Like I'm not going to fight alcohol in its form, but I'm
as a nutritionist, I still have a whiskey,
yeah.
But my single malt is 40 grand a peg.
What
because I will just drink that once in a quarter. So the drinking is the occasion,
right?
The celebration, the joy that I know that I can afford it,
right?
But I want to have it,
right?
But I also know that it's going to slap me. So I do it at the highest level of quality.
Spot on. Think about, you were saying muscle is the only age reversible organ.
Yes.
I keep telling my dad, he's now 60. Listen, lift. You're 60, it's already very hard, but your bones will get brittle now. You've lost all testosterone production.
Gar ki murgi dal barabar. Your father will never listen to you.
Yeah.
So this is what you need to do for your dad. Hire a physio trainer and gift him to your dad for 2 months. That guy on his own will get your father to start lifting.
And imagine that hum to 20, but we're talking 20-year-olds. 60-year-olds won't listen, dude. Nobody wants to acknowledge their mortality even at 60. And so knowledge is powerful in some cases, and this is one of those cases. People ask me, Prakhar, how do I motivate myself? And I give them a very dark advice. I'm like, go hang out at Shamshan Ghat. Watch people come and go. And then मेरे को बोलना मैं procrastinate करता हूँ या मैं motivated नहीं हूँ या मैं disciplined नहीं हूँ. एक बार मरते हुए आदमी को देख लोगे, बोलोगे भाई इतना ही जीवन है, इसी में ट्रिप करना है, इसी में फन करना है, तो कर लेते हैं ना. फिर और करने को भी क्या है? Why are we so distracted? What else is there to do than this? And it all begins with the body. My mental health tremendously improved the day I started taking care of my body. My physical health completely changed. My performance changed because of that. You know, Joe Rogan sits for 3 hours in a podcast. There is a reason he's 50 something, 60 something, and he's able to sit for 3 hours, and young guys like me get tired in 1 or 2. Because that is elite performance in my specific domain. And we can talk on and on and
He's
on.
an Olympian in his own right.
Yeah, man. Vidit Gujarati, who's a chess player, one of India's foremost, he will meditate for an hour a day because he knows when it comes down to the barrel and he's fighting against some top tier Magnus Carlsen, he has to really zone in. And I think those are the experiences we kind of live for also. And so why are we bereft of that? And why are we exchanging it for temporary pleasure of either cheap sex, cheap alcohol, cheap drugs and such stuff like that? This has been my sort of coming of age realization over the last year or so. And so to shorten the long answer, I think mortality is something we don't consider. And once we start doing that, health behavior changes. Vanity is something we do consider. And so I try to trick people early on in the podcast by saying, let's talk vanity, Ryan. Let's talk vanity. So that once they step in, एक बार वो नशा हो गया ना vanity का और health का, वहाँ से performance, cognitive function, brain fog सब खुलता चला जाता है. And then one day you're talking about how do I live forever like Brian Johnson is. As weird as that might be, but that is, I think, the true path to evolution, is tricking yourself into it in some twisted, weird way, because you cannot see the ultimate truth. You can, when you're 50, look down at your 20-year-old self and be like, but you cannot see it when you're 20, what 50 feels like. You know, that's what I think the long and short of it is. Is that a decent answer?
Awesome.
Thank you, man. This was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, guys. If you're passionate about conversations like this, and if you think, Prakhar, I'd like to listen to more conversations like this, then I must tell you, there is a subscribe button right here and a bell icon right next to it. And it's your moral obligation to press that. Press the subscribe button and I'll see you around for more conversations just like this.